The Onyx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by HOPEWELL Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Kathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from HOPEWELL Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, HOPEWELL Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the HOPEWELL Farm link and coupon code on the Onyx Network website at onyxnetwork.com. That's onyxnetwork.com. It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm Margie K, and you're listening to Onyx News. Hopefully, you're also watching us on YouTube and then also Rumble now. So we've got our Rumble account going. We had some issues for a while, but it is up, and we're putting all of our shows on there as well. Got a good show for you tonight. I do want to remind you about a couple of things coming up. Contact at Sea. Seats are filling up fast. If you're interested, please check that out at contactatsea.com and be sure to tell them that Onyx News sent you. That is going to be a really fun time. Then, of course, XCon Into the Rabbit Hole. That is October the 11th through the 13th in Springfield, Missouri. Sponsored by the NX Network, of course. And if you go to unxnetwork.com, you'll get all of the information. You can register there. And early bird pricing ends on August 1st. So to get the best price, go get that taken care of now. And also be sure to get your hotel room at the Oasis. Now, we are doing a special event this year. We're going to be doing a live ghost hunt. So if you have ghost hunting equipment, and whether you're experienced or it's your first time and you want to join us, feel free to do so. We're going to be doing some workshops ahead of time with Michelle Roos and Dan Terry, and it's just going to be a fun time. And I guarantee you're going to get some results because that place is very, very haunted. And we just love things like that. So we like everything here at the X. And this evening, though, we are going to be talking to somebody I met recently. I just love this gal, Sherri Divband. She's an intuitive transformational energy healer and the founder of Aramis Creative Learning Center and the Aramis Collective. She's the author of Starseeds and the Great Awakening, Intuitive Transformation Evolution, Divinely Guided, and the Divinely Guided children's books and animation series. Sherri has focused her healing practice on guiding adults through their spiritual awakening and guiding and representing new earth children. Welcome to the program, Sherri.
Wow, thank you, Margie. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, so glad you could join me. I'm glad we finally got together. So we had a few little roadblocks, but I was really excited to get you on the show after we met at the Journey to Truth conference. And that was a wonderful event, wonderful time. And I just think that what you're doing is very special and unique. So why don't you tell us about how you got started with all this?
Oh, loaded question. The Cliff Notes version is I was in the animal industry for over 20 years. So I was an animal nurse and I dedicated my life to animals. I was a wounded child and very traumatized for certain life events. And so I kind of shied away from humanity and didn't want to talk to people. I was very shy and introverted. So I thought working with animals was kind of the thing for me to get away and to escape. Little did I know that the animals were leading me to something much bigger, but I learned communication with animals on my own. And I started doing animal communication. I learned energy healing to work with animals because I worked in the ICU a lot of the time. And the animals were in um, really bad shape a lot of the time. And it was heartbreaking to work with them. So I wanted to learn other holistic practices to help them through their healing and surgeries and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did animal communication, I would get the same message all the time. Most of the time, the animals had disease or anxiety or behavioral issues as a result of their family member, whoever they were connected to the most, and they would tell me, my mom or my owner or my person needs this healing. It's their anxiety I'm taking on. It's their disease I'm taking on. And I noticed myself repeatedly telling people, well, I think you're the one that needs some healing. And that was really hard for a shy, introverted person to tell somebody that, because it can sound very arrogant if you don't do it the right way. So that I struggled with that, and a lot of people didn't like it, but there were many that said, you know what, I think you're right. So that kind of guided me to working with people. I didn't want to, but I started to do energy healing on those people. That led to awakening that I wasn't really expecting. When I was connecting to people energetically, I started to get visions. I started to see past lives. I started to see things I wasn't asking for. Guides would come to me. I started seeing things. And I was like, what do I do with this information? At first, I didn't know. Am I supposed to share this with them? What if they're not open to it? They came to me for Reiki, and how do I tell them, oh, I see you in this lifetime, getting strangled or something. That's where your neck issue is coming from, or things like that. So I kept it myself for a while, and then eventually I started to share. I became a master hypnotherapist. I learned hypnobirthing. So I started expanding what I was doing. And then I was helping women have natural childbirth and self hypnosis. Then I started helping people regress into past lives, because I'm like, well, if they're interested in that, they're going to come to me and then we can expand on it. So I just started expanding my reach. And then I started attracting parents who had labeled children, and they were or psychic children or nonverbal children. And then that just opened up an entirely new arena. And I think it was the animal communication that prepared me to work with children, because it was a very similar energy. And I started to communicate with the higher selves of the children who were labeled. And that just shifted the trajectory of everything I do, which is now I'm more educational based. I'm helping the transition of the education platform. I work with psychic children all over the world. I help parents and families navigate what that looks like. And I have my Aramis Creative Learning Center platform, and I write books in children's books and animation, and I am a public speaker. And so now I feel like not only do I help children, but I also help a lot of adults through their awakening process, kind of like what I went through. I help others do the same thing.
Do you feel like you've been guided by a higher consciousness through this process?
Absolutely. I believe it was the animal kingdom that gently guided me. They saved my life. They helped me be more compassionate and empathetic towards people, because I was so angry and bitter about how I was treated throughout my life, and bullied and neglected and betrayed, that I thought, oh, people are horrible. And that I put everyone in that category. I didn't trust anyone. And the animals, I think, helped open my heart. And then when I started having children, they opened my heart and expanded more. But certainly it's a higher presence that's guiding me this whole time. I feel that divine presence always.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested in your work with children. Do you find that it's easier or more difficult to work with children than adults?
I prefer to work with children. I love working with children, and it's much easier because they are so much more honest. They're so much more willing to share. It actually depends on the age. Sometimes the older they get in the teen years, they're a little bit more reserved and shy and shut off, and I have to kind of work up to it. But I've learned more from children than I have from anyone else. So I believe they're our greatest teachers. And that's why so many children are coming in that are different than what we're used to. They're much more wise. They're much more present. They're much more intuitive and imaginative. And maybe we have always been that way, but it was shut off much more at a much earlier age for my generation and perhaps previous generations. But they're coming in strong and really anchored in that. And so they're telling parents, I see us in another lifetime, and we came in together again. Don't you remember? I was your dad. I was your mom. Don't you remember, Mom? Don't you remember that life we had? Or don't you remember when we were on Mars together? And they're seeing shadow beings. They see angelics. They see everything, and their parents don't know how to handle that. And they see me talk, and they say, "Oh, they called me freaked out. I don't know what to do." And then I feel like I just calm them down and let them know, like, this is actually really great. And I help them nurture that so that the children don't feel scared, because when the children feel scared, they shut down. And I think that's why children open up to me and they like me, because they instantly feel comfortable, because there's no judgment. And I'm very open, and I say, yes, I believe you. Please tell me more. And as soon as they have somebody that's willing to listen, man, they don't stop. They don't stop talking. So
Yeah. In my speaking with many people over the years, there's people who have been suppressed as children, they want to use their psychic abilities, but they feel shut down. But if their parents were open, even if they didn't understand what was going on, and they supported them, then, and we're talking about just psychic work here, their psychic center is open. It's wide open and ready to go. So I think as a child, parents really have a big influence on the children, as well as teachers and anybody in authority. What would your message be to authority figures regarding children who say things like, "Hey, don't you remember when we were together in another lifetime?"
Well, if starting with the parents, because the parents are going to be a little bit more open and understanding to their particular child, as opposed to a teacher who's working with 15, 20 children. So my biggest advice to parents is just listen. That's all they want. If you have an open mind and you listen, they won't shut down. And I think that's the biggest challenge that previous generations have had. That's where we got the imaginary friends and, "Oh, you're making that up," and stop that. And we're just, human nature is to feel like you belong and that you're not different. That's our human nature, we want to connect. And especially when you're young, you're looking at everyone else to see how they're acting. And when you notice that no one else is seeing what you're seeing in the art, how come no one else is seeing those beings in the corner? How come no one else can telepathically communicate? And we, around the age of 5 or 6 years old, we start to anchor a little bit more and integrate into the human body and the human experience, and the more like the third dimension. And that's when it starts to shut down. So it's really the parents first, and the siblings and the family that are around the child the most before they even go to school. Let them know that it's okay. And don't tell them, don't be so quick to say, "Oh, you're just imagining that." Let them tell you, and you don't necessarily have to have the right answer. It's just a matter of being open so that they feel safe. They have a safe space to share, because that way, by the time they go to school, they're a little bit more willing to be themselves. And for teachers, it's different. I think there are a lot of programmed teachers out there, and they're just so indoctrinated to just tell the children to just be quiet in general. They're not even allowed to speak much. So if we could just allow the children more opportunity to speak their truth, then the school system isn't going to change. That's why I started my own, because I think that we need an overhaul of the school environment anyways.
So how does your school work?
Well, right now, what I should say is that is what I'm trying to create. So I started Aramis Creative Learning Center about 4 years ago. And my intention in the beginning was to create a metaphysical center, an esoteric center for children, kind of like we have Sunday school. where you go in on Sunday and you learn the Bible and all of this. Well, in this case, I wanted to create something different where children can go and into a beautiful center with outdoor activities and learn about crystals and meditation and esoteric practices and emotions and energy healing and animal communication. I'm like, how fun would that be? But through my daughter and everything that's happened with her, which I can explain more, it morphed into education, because during the COVID period, the pandemic period, we all saw the need and recognized the issue with the education. More parents, the educational system, more parents were present and paying attention, and we recognized a lot of the flaws. And also a lot of the starseeds right now are having an adverse reaction to the indoctrination. So they're being more rebellious. They're speaking up. They're not listening. They're having more perceived learning disabilities, but really they're not learning disabilities. They're just checking out. They're just bored. They're not connecting. And so what I have right now is an online virtual platform so that anyone can participate in any part of the world based on time zone, of course, and take the classes that I think should be offered in school, which probably never will, all the things that I mentioned. But now we've started adding spiritual science to it. So a little bit of science mixed in with the spiritual element, or mindful math, or remote viewing, or so many different classes. I mean, we've offered probably 300 classes in the last 4 years that are absolutely exceptional. And it's really more extracurricular based. But we moved to Florida to open the first physical center that will be like a homeschool resource center, something alternative, where children can come and learn in the way that I believe that is more conducive to New Earth Star Seed children, where we don't use labels and there is no curriculum, and there's no competition and testing, and we don't separate children by age. It's more developmental stages, and we have the Aramis philosophies and principles, and they get to choose what they learn day to day, and they have options, and they have a voice, and it's fun, and they understand why they're learning, and they enjoy it, and they learn foundational things that are not being taught in school, like gardening and agriculture, all the things that we should be learning as the primary part of our school, and then project-based learning. So that is that's where we're heading towards. But right now it's an online, more extracurricular type of setup.
So if people want to enroll their child, can obviously, since it's online, they could live anywhere.
Exactly. It's based on time zone. So we were offering Australia time zone, European, and the States and Eastern. But now we have cut back a little bit, just because I have been so busy. It's really challenging for me to run that and do all the other things that I do. So predominantly everything is in Eastern time zone, but we try to do it in a way where people in the Pacific time zone can participate on the weekend. And we have Australian teachers that do nighttime classes, so the children in Australia can do it in their morning time. So there's no memberships. It's just, if you see something that your child's interested in, you can sign up, and it's over Zoom. And we have some amazing mentors. We don't call them teachers. And it's just for fun. It's no stress. It's really just for fun. And they're very economical, and children love them.
Just for people who don't know what a star child is, or a star seed, can you explain that?
So I think starseed is an ambiguous term. I believe that all of us are from the stars. No one is really indigenous to this planet, although there are what we call indigenous beings, because they have been here for millions and millions of years. But at the root of all of us, we are a collective consciousness that fractals out or fragments out from source, and we have our own unique consciousness and our own individual aspect that separates us. But in reality, we're all one. And so when we when we incarnate into a life, we are in essence a star seed experiencing that particular life in that particular place. And we can have many at the same time all over the universe, or multiverse. So why we refer to it as a star seed here on this planet right now is because I believe that many souls have been trapped in essence, trapped here. Not really trapped, just confused here, and have been kind of have had many incarnations over and over, against their will. And I'd have to explain that a little bit further, but to keep it surface level, there are a lot of 3D people. There are a lot of people that have been here so many times. They're so connected to the matrix. So there are what we refer to as starseeds that are more ascended beings that have come from many other planets, or also our planet, more indigenous spirits, like even Sasquatch or inner earth beings, fifth dimensional beings and beyond. And they incarnate as a human to be with us, among us, to be the leaders and the teachers, to be the way showers, to influence us, and also on an energetic level, to shift the frequency. So those are the starseeds. But at the root, we are all starseeds. But many of the starseeds on the planet, unfortunately, are what we refer to as asleep. So the starseeds are the one that come in to activate the rest of us. And we've been having starseeds come into this planet forever, but in large capacity in the last 100 years. And Dolores Cannon really was the first one to start talking about it at large with the 3 waves of volunteers. Those are starseeds. The children, I believe, are the 4th wave, and it'll continue on and on.
Well, I have noticed over the past few years that just in the private readings that I do for people on an almost daily basis, I'll do 2 or 3 per day when I'm in town, that the people coming in are already awake. The ones that are coming to see me are awake. Whereas in previous years, say, previous to that, like 4 years ago, that wasn't the case. About half of the people coming to me were not awake at all.
Yeah.
And the newer ones talk about their families, how they think that their children are starseeds and they're very advanced and they have to make sure they get special educational assistance because they're so intelligent, and that they've got to get some education outside the private or the public school system because that's not doing it for them. And I've seen problems with the public school system for years. I took both of my girls out in the 90s and taught them homeschool for that reason. But what you're doing goes beyond that. And it's a very, very needed thing, because it's not going to happen in any private school or any public school. This sort of thing. And like you said earlier, just the basics of like learning to plant and garden, and a big thing that I really think people need to know is how to handle money. I mean, most they don't get any training in that, even in college. how to balance a checkbook, and manage their money. That's so important. And it just sounds like what you've done is kicked it up several notches. And I think there's going to be, and I just see this influx of people coming to you and making this explode into a big deal. Are you feeling like there could be different schools set up in different time zones that you would set up in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like my vision was very macro in the beginning. I had huge intentions. My husband told me I need to dial it back a little bit because I think I got so excited. What I should say, and maybe you don't know this either, my daughter, the soul of my daughter came to me about a year or so before I got pregnant with her. She was my third. And she said, I'm coming into your life as your daughter, and we have a big mission together. And she was getting my permission. And I said, absolutely. And so every week throughout for almost a year before I got pregnant, and every week throughout my pregnancy, I channeled her. And I learned everything that I put in my first 2 books came from her. She's the one that taught me about starseeds. She's the one that taught me a lot of what I know. And it wasn't until she was a few years old, and her name is Aramis, where she went to preschool. And she came home and said, I want to be a teacher, like the first day. And I was like, well, that's cool. Your kids say a lot of things. You're just, okay, that's wonderful. But it became an obsession, Margie. We turned her room into a classroom. And for 5 years, the next 5 years straight, she said, I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to run a school. And she literally had her room set up like her favorite thing to do was to go to Office Depot and those types of stores to get teacher supplies. Everyone else is buying toys, and she wanted like colorful notebooks and things to hang on the wall, and affirmations for the wall, and little decorations and things like that. So when I started all of this, I had that epiphany. I didn't share this in the beginning, but my epiphany was, oh my gosh, this is what we were supposed to do together. This is what she was preparing me for. So the grand vision, and why I call it Aramis, is this is her legacy. This is what she came in, and I'm just helping her get it started. This is really big. And I see, she showed me visions of them being in every state, in almost every city, and worldwide. And this is just the beginning. And this is just, it's a movement, and it's going to take time, but it also is, but the timing is really important, the divine timing, because this type of setup would not have worked years ago.
Right.
So humanity is just now opening up to realize that we need something more. And the parents are waking up and saying, hold on, I don't like this for my children. I want something more. And now I'm getting emails and calls every day, and I'm bombarded with, when are you going to open this up near me? And I said, soon. I mean, that is the plan. That is the vision. So yes, we will have them everywhere.
Yeah. Awesome. I see it too. I see the vision. All right. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after these messages.
This September 6th through the 13th, join with like-minded souls in the experience of a lifetime on the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas as we travel from Seattle to Alaska. Internationally renowned researchers, investigators, experiencers, authors, holistic healers, contactees, spiritual luminaries will sail on an extraordinary voyage of transformation. This cruise will explore UFOs, alien contact, cover-ups, ancient mysteries, the paranormal, holistic healing, and spirituality. Experience engaging lectures, one-on-one sessions, private, custom-tailored excursions, and a nightly UFO watch. The cruise is booking up fast. Go to contactatsea.com and be sure to mention the UNX Network when you book. That's contactatsea.com or phone 336-749-1219. That's 336-749-1219.
We're back with UNX News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and I just want to mention that we're making a few changes with this show in a couple of weeks. August 16th, we're going to a 2-hour format instead of a 1-hour format. So stay tuned for that. We'll have a lot more information coming up soon. My guest this evening is Sherri Divband, and we were discussing Aramis just a minute ago. Her learning center that is available online right now, and in the future, it will be available in person, and that will be in Florida. What city in Florida is that, Sherri?
It will be in the West Palm Beach vicinity.
Okay. All right. And I've got a couple of books here. Now, this is your latest book. Is that correct?
I have one more that just came out in June called Courage to Change the Freedom Movement. That one is from last year. Yeah, that's the first. That's the newest one.
There we go. That's the newest one. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So Courage to Change well, I guess I have to talk about the other one for this one to make sense. Sorry.
Okay, let's go there first.
Yeah, sorry about that. So this book was inspired by my clients. So like Margie, I work with people every single day. Well, not every day, but certain days of the week, I have one-on-one soul reading sessions. Some are with children, but about half my time I dedicate to adults to help them, to help guide them through their spiritual awakening. And I've been doing that for quite some time. And I have collected a catalog of information from those sessions, much like Dolores Cannon wrote her books based on the sessions she did through QHHT. The bulk of the information in that book was information that I learned through my sessions that I felt that I needed to share with the collective, because it's so relevant for us to understand what the 3D is and what 3D interference is, which is a collection of things that I believe that what I refer to as the dark players do to suppress humanity, and how they keep us in this 3D reality. And so that was where it started. And that's when I got into Aramis Creative Learning Center, and I spoke about what I see coming in the future, not so much prophecies, but again, what I've seen in other people's sessions that I saw so many times, it seemed like a theme. So I share a lot of that in that book. The Courage to Change the Freedom Movement is a continuation. So it's more of that, but I get a little bit more into the psychological warfare, what I call the 3D influence. And I talk about like how are we dismantling the 3D grid? How is this ascension taking place? How is this great awakening occurring? And the bulk of the book, because I am in energy healing and because I've done that for so long, I incorporate a lot of techniques and ways to empower yourself to heal on your own by different techniques and practices that I've been using for years on my clients, myself, my family, that really work. And I share those things within the book to help people, because it's one thing to know, okay, this is how I'm programmed. These are the things that they do to us. This is the paranormal. This is that. But how can we take our power back? How can we have the courage to recognize our programming, take responsibility for the role that we've played within our programming, recognizing the loops or patterns that we are in as a result of the programming and traumas, and how do we step out of that? And these are the ways to do it. And then I call it the freedom movement, because I think collectively, if we work together and do the inner work on our own, we can make great strides and progress to break down, or what I call dismantle, the 3D, so that we can all truly heal and come together in this new earth, or however you want to refer to it. There's lots of different ways to express that.
I think the biggest problem people have that they come to me with is, how do I change my level of consciousness? How do I learn to do this? How do I make changes? What do you tell them when they ask you that?
I love that question. And that is I feel like that's my focal point, and that's my area of expertise. Not that I'm an expert at it in any way, because we're all still evolving and growing. But I feel what I've learned over the years is how to help people identify their blocks. And so when I do a soul reading on someone, I do tap into their past lives. And the reason for that is because I'm able to collectively help them discern where they've come from, what the challenges have been, what the blocks have been, who their soul groups are, where is their soul origin path, what other planets have they been, who are they connected to, where are they connected to, and why did they choose to come into this timeline in this period of ascension? What is their soul purpose? Why are you here? And once I connect the dots for people like that, and I put these little tiny puzzle pieces together, people walk away so empowered, and they cry sometimes at the end of the session because they're like, thank you. Now it makes sense. And they walk away feeling like they have a purpose, they have a goal, they understand why things have happened to them, why they have these traumas, why they've had these relationships, where the blocks have come from. And it's all about, I feel like I'm just the catalyst. I'm not solving anyone's problems, but if I can encourage somebody to look at things from a neutral perspective and just shift there and take the emotion out and look at it as an overview, I feel like I have this gift to see the overview. And then I explain the overview, and then they look at their life from the overview position, from that macro. And when you do that, they realize, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. And then they have something in their mind just shift. And then every day moving forward, they have a new outlook on everything. And that's how you shift your consciousness. That's the catalyst to the healing because our brains are very primal, and that left brain mentality is what captivates us and keeps us here. If we can forward to that right brain and connect to the intuition and the higher aspect of ourselves, that's where the magic is. That's when we can see beyond. And people like me and you and many others all over the world that help people do that, I feel like we've learned to master that a little bit so that we can help others do the same.
Yeah, definitely. There are quite a few of us who have been directed and assisted along the way. Now, I have been in direct contact with a particular extraterrestrial. Did you have any trigger, any particular contact besides your daughter that triggered this in you and, just made you start paying attention and listening?
Yes, several experiences. I was really intuitive as a child, and I saw a lot of things, but I didn't feel safe or comfortable, so I shut that part off. And when I got pregnant with my son, that was back when Sylvia Brown was really popular, and she would go on Montel Williams a lot, and we had James Van Praagh. Those were my initial teachers. This was little over 20 years ago. And something sparked and activated within me when I was reading those books, and I started to become a lot more connected and a lot more intuitive. And my goal initially was to connect with my higher self. I never really wanted to connect with my angels or my guides more than I wanted to connect with my soul. And so I feel like I was able to authentically connect there first, which made it so much easier to then connect to galactic beings and spirit guides and the angelic realm when I was able to discern who I was communicating with. So I really developed a strong connection with my higher self first. And then it wasn't until I was doing sessions with people that the galactic beings started coming in. And it was scary at first, Margie. I still remember the first time that this being came in, and it looked kind of like a mantis being, and it was right next to me. And it scared me so much. And the lights were dim, and the person was not passed out. They were very relaxed on the table, and I was doing energy healing over them. And I look over, and this big being with these black eyes, almost like an ant-like face. And I got startled. I got scared. And it was the most amazing energy. And all this, and he said it was a masculine energy. He put his hand up and he said, I come in peace. And I literally just had this wave of calm. And then I just listened to it, and he showed me how to heal this woman. And it was incredible. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And then as I started to do more sessions with people, I noticed more galactic beings. Arcturians would come in, whomever was connected to that person. It wasn't through me. It was their connection, like their guides. And I started working with the Arcturians, with Pleiadians, with the Andromedans. I mean, it was spectacular. But at the time, I really couldn't tell a lot of people, because I thought they're going to think I'm insane. I didn't have the network that I have now back then. So I really kept it to myself. So I was afraid at first to publish my last book last July. I did the Journey to Truth conference last year with you for the first time. And that was when I talked about that book. And I said, I'm brave and I'm putting myself out there because a lot of people don't know I do all of this. And I shared the things that I was afraid to share with before. So yeah, it was a collection of different things, different experiences.
I have noticed there's a particular group that seems to be very prominent right now, that I'm when I'm looking at my clients, talking to my clients, what's coming in or where they recently came from, and their guides, so to speak, that are from another place, another planet. Are you getting an influx like that of a particular place that there are more of than others?
Well, for a lot, okay, yes. Um, I'm getting a lot of Lyrans.
That's
Or,
it.
oh my gosh.
That's it. That's what I'm getting to.
But you know what, Margie? The reason for me, I think that I personally seem to attract Lyrans and those that have had a lifetime in Lemuria. And I think that's because I'm Lyran. And I also had life in Lemuria, and that's a heavy influence in my chart. Now I've had other lives in other places, but I'm very connected to Lyra. And one of my sons is extremely connected. He's a cat being. I mean, it's obvious. And so I seem to attract a lot of Lyrans.
Well, we're on the same wavelength because that is what is happening with a lot of my clients. And I hear Lyra all the time, and
That's
and
funny.
and also Lemuria as well as a time where they spent time, as a place where they spent time. And when I am looking at their time spent there, I can just easily visualize it and see, just like a video, watching what it was like there. And that place, of course, I do remote viewing, but when I look at Lemuria, it's more clear than anything else. It's brighter, more colors. Are you experiencing the same thing?
Absolutely. And I believe that a lot of people that are incarnated right now that are connected to Lemuria for a reason, because we are bringing in a lot of the philosophies and elements of Lemuria that we've lost. So a lot of the people that were living at that time are here now to be gentle guides and leaders and mentors. And look at me. And so a lot of what I know I was a midwife in Lemuria, which makes sense to me. In hindsight, looking back, why I was so interested in childbirth and children, and why I took hypnobirthing to help women have relaxed, nurturing, more calm births. And I'm looking at the education system. I'm using that word. That's a 3D word, but how they educated their youth in Lemuria is very parallel to what I'm creating. So I think that the dynamics are that way for a reason. I think you're seeing a lot because there are a lot here right now helping us pioneer to get back to that way of life.
Yeah, that would be so nice, because right now life is pretty crazy. The world has gone insane. And I think a lot of people that I'm talking to anyway are just saying, this 3D world is crazy. I don't want any part of it again anymore. I'm moving on to something higher and better. Are you seeing the same sort of thing?
A lot of my clients are on their last life. And the funny thing is, I've had a couple of clients say this to me. They said, Sherri, you're telling me this is my last incarnation and I'm going to go back home to the Pleiades or wherever, or to inner earth or whatever it is. But why would I want to put in all this work and effort and then just leave when things get good? And I said, well, that's a great question. But what I'm seeing is you're not going to leave anytime soon. You still have a lot of life left. We are going to expand our lifespans, and we are going to be here much longer. But if you think about how many times you've been here and how much work you've done, of course you, in your 3D sense, want to stick around and be a part of the party, but your soul wants to go home. Your soul just wants to be back with your family, your soul family. And so they appreciate it when I say it that way. But I think a lot of people are just here to volunteer to help us through this movement, this evolutionary path that we're on, to help humanity reach a certain trajectory. And then I think a lot will retreat and go home. But the good news is there are still a lot waiting in line to come in. The only difference is those coming in that I'm seeing have to be at a minimum. That's such a terrible word, a certain frequency, to be able to be in alignment with where we're going. No longer are we bringing in heavy karma and all this burden in this low frequency. That's done. So the ones that are coming in are really here to contribute. There's a purpose for it. Just like in Lemuria. So when I was in midlife in Lemuria, we would work with souls coming in, and it was a plan. Everybody knew it was a conscious plan of, if I'm going to bring in a child, I know exactly where the child's coming from, what gifts they have, and what they're here to, why they're coming in for a reason. They're going to contribute in some way, and everyone knows about it. Here with the veil, we forget, and there's a lot of confusion and convolution with that. That I believe where we're headed is that the souls that are coming in have a plan, and we're going to know more about that in the future, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the 3D Earth is going to separate from 5D Earth, and there will actually be two physical separate Earths in different dimensions?
I have to admit, Margie, years ago, I was like, that's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. And I really didn't see that. But now, in hindsight, looking back at the last few years and everything I know now that I didn't know then, first of all, I don't think anyone knows for sure. But I do feel like it's going to be something like that, where it's more of a dimensional split. So just like we are sharing space with other interdimensional beings right now, there could be so many things that I don't see in a higher frequency as well as a lower frequency. I think it will be something like that, where we will connect to the frequency that we are in resonance with. And so technically there would be a split. And those of us that are in that fifth dimensional energy will be in a different space, literally a different dimension. And that's where the new earth will. And those that are not ready or not willing, because many people, I've never had a session with anyone not willing, but it's generally the spouse or a family member. And when I connect with them, I'm like, ooh, they don't want anything to do with me. I can't connect with them, and they're resisting. They don't want change. So those are the ones that are making that choice. That's their free will. And in essence, I think there will be some sort of a split like that. What do you think?
That's the reason I ask, is because I've been seeing that for several years, a physical split. And there's something called the Roswell Rock Circle that was found many years ago. And they don't know how it was imprinted into this rock, this shape. And then after that, a giant crop circle was found. And what it is the Earth and Moon, and the second Earth and Moon. And when I remote viewed it to see what it was, I was shown that part of the Earth is moving into fifth dimension, and the 3D Earth will be left behind, and there will be no communication anymore with those people who choose not to raise their vibration. And it's a conscious choice. They stay, and it does seem to be, whether that happens or not, it does seem to be like you said, that a lot of times it's a spouse or a family member who is stuck and very, very adamant that they stay there. They're afraid of change. And I think that fear is stopping them from moving on and waking up. But on the other hand, I'm seeing more people wake up now than ever.
Yeah, I do.
Are you?
Absolutely. And it's interesting. That reminds me, years ago, I would say 3-4 years ago, there was a lot more division and a lot less awake people in my clients' lives. And then I would see, they're resisting. And in the last few years, I've seen more of, well, I'm tapping into your spouse, and, I can't see too much because ethically I don't have permission, but I am being granted this much to see. And I feel like they're undecided. I'm getting this undecided, like they're on the fence. Their soul has to, there hasn't been a choice made yet. It could go either way. And I'm seeing less of that now, though. And now it's transitioned to a lot more people they've made the choice to stay, but they don't know how. And there's such a fear. So the spouse is holding space for them for this transition period. So it's crazy how the shift has transitioned over the years. And I've seen it firsthand myself. And that's kind of cool to be able to see that. And it shows progress. That's why it's cool. My point is it's cool because I've seen progress. It's not like we're going backwards in many cases.
So do you think, generally speaking, that the vibration of the earth is rising?
Absolutely, 100%. I think that's why we're perceiving the earth to be in shambles, and all of this stuff is super crazy, and I can't believe this is happening. I look at all of that as a good sign, because I'm like, hey man, we got to shuffle all this up, and then we need things to collapse and crumble, the paradigms to shift so that we can rebuild. This is like that collapsing period, and it's real uncomfortable. You know, when you're in that healing period, nobody enjoys that. It's raw, it's uncomfortable. You have outbursts, you're crying, you're upset. You go all through these waves of emotions. The earth is going through waves of emotions, and we're healing individually and collectively, and that doesn't look pretty. We're all doing our ugly cry, and we all, you know, we're all just so exhausted. But I always tell people, my gauge or my validation that we are making progress and we are raising in frequency is that when I do work with children, and I work with families where I see, oh, another one's, you know, I see a boy coming within the next year or so, or, you know, et cetera. I know these children, these souls wouldn't keep volunteering to come in if we weren't on the right track, because a lot of these souls are so ascended and so high frequency that they won't even come in until we have reached 5D. They're like, no, I'm waiting. So, and they're still on the trajectory to come, and many of them are still coming through. So to me, that's my beautiful little gauge, that I look at. I don't look at anything else. I don't look at everyone else and what they're saying, or anything I see in the public eye, in the environment, and episodes and things that are happening. I look at the children, and I'm like, if they're not, it's like with little kid. If mom and dad aren't worried, the kid shouldn't be worried. I look at the children. I'm like, if they're not worried and they're still coming in, we're good. That's my gauge. That's how I figure things out.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
What do you think about children who are telepathic and they want to practice that? And of course, mainstream school will shut anything like that down. Can they learn this from their parent, and also is this something that you teach?
It's a really good question, and I saw a need, and that's why I wanted to create the metaphysical centers initially, was for that purpose, because I was teaching a lot of parents, or a lot of adults rather, psychic communication and all of these classes I was teaching. And I thought, oh wow, this would be great for children. They pick it up so easy. And so the classes that we offer through Aramis Creative Learning Center, a lot of them are remote viewing and psychic abilities and all sorts of different variations of that, telepathy, animal communication, energy healing, things like that. And so they're very popular. And I think the parents started asking, well, can we have the same class too? So now we offer the adult versions of that. So there is a need, and they're certainly not teaching it in school, but that's why I started offering it, because there's a need, a want, a desire, but very few opportunities for the children to learn. And I'm very specific about how we teach, because you have to teach protection, and you have to teach in a certain way so that children, we have to be responsible. We can't just give them a pendulum and say, go have fun with it. Like, I have lots of tools in my house, and my children will pick them up, and they think it's funny sometimes, not so much anymore. And I'm like, no, this is a serious tool, and you need to be careful what you're asking and how you're asking. So we have to teach them, safety and procedures as well. But there is certainly a need.
Definitely. There definitely is. Well, I just think that what you're doing is fantastic. It's very needed. And I hope that you get things off the ground as far as I know you're doing the online great. I hope you get the in-person school and see them all over, because I'm remote viewing it right now. I'm seeing them in every state.
I love that.
So,
well, and that's why we opened the nonprofit. So we have a nonprofit called the Aramis Collective. So it's Aramis Creative Learning Center, and then we have the Aramis Collective. And the intention behind that, if we find people that are interested in donating, you can donate to the cause. So we're raising money to support what we're doing and to open the first center. So if anyone listening out there wants to be a donor or wants to get involved, we have the nonprofit as well. So there's lots of different ways to get involved.
Okay, and we've got that website up posted right now. Thank you so much, Sherri. It's been wonderful spending a little bit of time with you this evening and learning more about what you're doing.
The honor is all mine. I'm so grateful to be with you. And I had such a great time with you at the conference. I just didn't want it to end. So I'm excited to have spent this time with you. And thank you for having me on your channel.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope you will come back sometime soon.
Absolutely.
And, keep me posted on the school. I really want to keep in touch on that with your notices, and I'll spread the word as much as I can, because even though I would love to be able to do something like that, I do not have time. I'm already doing my own courses. And for some reason, I'm just not a person to work with children. I'm fine with adults. I just don't work with children. I'm so glad you're doing that, because it's very needed.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Sherri Divband. Wonderful this evening. Folks, don't forget to go to unxnetwork.com to get information about everything that we're doing, including, we have the magazine, we have a newsletter. If you join at unxnetwork.com, you will get a free newsletter and also a free monthly digital magazine. And if you get a paid subscription, you'll get more, including the printed magazine. So, and then of course we have XCon every year, and we're planning on doing another event. So 2 events in 2025. More about that later. And I'll see you next time.